Vermil in Gold. The story begins with our protagonist, Alto, a teenager at the Ortigia Academy of Magic, debating with his professor. Alto is required to summon and create a contract with a familiar at the Ortigia Academy of Magic, or risk receiving a failing grade. Despite having previously failed the summoning spell, he manages to summon a naked demon girl named Vermil by using the spells contained in an old book he discovered in the library. In exchange for serving him, she smooches him to drain his mana and expresses her compassion for his summoning her from detention. She tries to entertain him, but he rejects her and forces her to wear his sister's dress. He hides her horns and tails when he brings her to school, as is familiar to appear as a human. An act of jealousy, Alto's close friend Lilia confronts him for a tussle. If she manages to win, Vermil has to avoid Alto, and if he wins, she will comply with his demands. Lilia's familiar, Sylphide, unleashes a potent storm strike, but Vermil skillfully diverts it using magic to make Lilia so thrilled that she surrenders. Alto instructs Lilia to trust Vermil. Vermil persuades Alto that Lilia loves him, but he doesn't believe her. She gives him another kiss and dries him, warning him that if he doesn't, she will magically fade away. When she tries to seduce him, he blocks her. She claims that having sex with him will give her more mana, and she requires it to live. Alto refuses her because he is reluctant and goes to sleep. The students are attacked by a dragon at school the following day. Although it belongs to somebody, the familiar is out of control. Vermil surprises everybody by killing the dragon with one blow. She's criticized by Alto for drawing attention to herself. Alto's senior, Rex, teases and threatens them with a second dragon familiar, but Vermil increases Alto's mana, allowing him to defeat them with his gemstone ability. Rex is now in awe and baffled. He's so heartbroken over his loss. Alto declares during lunch that he wants to be the best magician, not just in his school, but in the entire world. The following day, they both, as well as Lilia, go to see their friends, Marks and Cheryl. The headmistress then summons them, excluding Marks, and says that the class representative will be the one who can find a fairy flower in the woods. Marks also joins them in the forest, telling them that he wants to be the class representative as well, so he will find the flower first. However, a man-eating plant knocks him out during the competition, forcing Cheryl to care for him. The others discover that the flower is guarded by Cerberus, a three-headed giant dog, who appears to be ill. So Lilia uses a magical serum to make herself invisible, so she can pass Cerberus and grab the flower. She needs to remove her clothes because the potion does not affect them. One of Cerberus's heads were perfectly functioning, allowing it to pinpoint Lilia and attack her. So Vermil pumped Alto up again, and they defeated it. Lilia wins the flower, but she persuades Alto that he should be the one to claim it because he saved her. The invisibility is fading. Her body is now visible to Alto and the others. In her humiliation, she tosses the flowers, which blows away and lands in Cheryl's hand. At the same time, the task timer runs out, so Alto and Lilia applaud her because she's the lucky recipient of the fairy flower, which means she will be the class representative. Vermil loves modern cuisine, particularly desserts, since they weren't readily available in her time. She overeats desserts and neglects her diet, despite Alto's constant yelling at her to eat a well-balanced diet. Then, at school, while they are both enjoying an ice cream cone, the Dragon Rider passes by on their dragons, and every student idolizes member Chris. While changing, Cheryl persuades Lilia to tell Alto how she feels, but Lilia rejects her, saying that they are close buddies. The scene changes, and Vermil can be seen chasing Alto into the boys' dressing room, where he screams at her to stay outside. Later at night, Vermil breaks into Alto's shower at home and makes another attempt to lure him. He tries to deny her, but she begs, stating that she requires his mana or she will die, and they begin to smooch. As the scene changes, we see Chris beating up Rex and kicking him out of the Dragon Riders Club for surrendering to Alto and for having a dinosaur as the scene changes, we see Chris beating up Rex and kicking him out of the Dragon Riders Club. For surrendering to Alto, he is assaulted so severely that he needs to check into a hospital. When Alto gets to know what happened, he becomes furious and demands Chris to be in a duel. All of Alto's friends caution him against entering the battlefield because Chris is very powerful, but he continues to fight away. Chris is also there with her familiar dragon. Alto's mana is amplified by Vermil, but Chris's fire curses are sufficiently strong to break Alto's crystals and affect Vermil when she prevents them. But Chris's fire curses are sufficiently strong to break Alto's crystals and affect Vermil when she's preventing them. They strike her once more with great strength, but Chris begins to rise into the sky on her dragon's back and proclaims that dragons are the ultimate creatures and that all other organisms are inadequate. Vermil pumps up Alto once more, and he builds up a massive crystal structure and begins to fly as well. When they got close to Chris in the sky, Alto lashes out at her and compels her to give up by putting his crystals on her neck. All of the colleagues, including Lilia, are overjoyed that a pupil has defeated the boss of the Dragon Riders. All hands go up for Alto and Vermil. Professor Obsidian, his teacher, also applauds him, but advises him not to flaunt his abilities in front of everyone. The battle has now been won by Alto and Vermil. As a result of his decisive victory, Alto gains popularity among all students. Chris later apologizes to Rex and wrapped up her duties, because it was her law that anyone who loses a battle must complete all duties. Rex grabs the mop away from her and tells her she is his senior, and he doesn't like her to do these cleaning chores in front of him. At home, Vermal tries to entrap Alto once more, but tells her that she shouldn't kiss anyone unless she truly loves them. He then goes to sleep after denying her. Alto, who is still confused, asks Obsidian the following day about the relationship between humans and demons, to which he responds that demons only desire humans for their mana. Over dinner that night, Alto addresses Vermal and claims that she only desires him because she wants his mana, but she refutes this and shows her innocence by smooching him without rinsing his mana. Emma Abelin, a second grader, is lured into the library by Sir Obsidian, who then injects her with a poison that renders her frozen in ice. Emma is then rescued by Elena, but remains in a catatonic state, and the student council debates the fact that she is the 4th student to be assaulted. Alto is then seen writing something down on paper. Vermal inquires as to his activities, to which he responds that the class has been given a task to write down about their familiars. She strips down as Alto informs her that he needs to estimate her body. Alto hesitantly takes Vermal's body measurements. Lilia, who had jealousy for both of them, seeks Cheryl's help in spying on them. She takes the invisibility potion and gives Cheryl her outfit. She enters their room quietly, but Vermal has already worn her dress, so she doesn't observe anything odd and goes back. Alto lists Vermal's love of sweets on his familiar's fact sheet, but Vermal adds without letting him know that she also loves Alto more than sweets. Then, a flashback shows Rex in his 2nd year attempting to conjure his familiar dinosaur from an egg. Chris helps him hatch the egg because he thought it was a dragon egg. While talking to each other at school, Alto and Vermal are approached by Rex's brother. He begs for their assistance. He leads them to Rex, where they witness Rex assaulting Chris. Chris's body is transforming into a hybrid, enabling him to cast fire. As Rex's brother, Alto and Vermal show up. Rex expresses his desire for vengeance on Alto, but the student council president, Elena, appears and smashes Rex and his dinosaur down with her sword. Vermal informs Alto that she is not feeling well and is going to her room to nap, while Alto remains in school and continues his exam preparations. Lilia wants to spend time with Alto alone, so she takes him to her room. Vermal runs into Obsidian as she makes her way to her room and informs him that she is aware he is the one targeting students. She advises him to stop and cautions him that if he hurts Alto, she will murder him. Obsidian suddenly administers her with a painful injection that ultimately causes her to expunge evil energy. Elena rushes to assist her, but she is stopped by an evil spirit creature summoned by Obsidian. Vermal transforms into a catastrophic demon that is her true self. Alto and Lilia also approach the scene. Alto screams at the professor, asking him what he is doing with her. Obsidian mocks him, declaring that he is now Vermal's greater master, and cautions Alto to stay away from this matter if he wishes to live longer. Elena is still there, battling the continually reviving monsters Obsidian created. Obsidian wraps a magic chain around Vermal and uses it to control her. Then, Obsidian reveals that it was he who attacked students and tried to turn them into evil spirits by injecting them with potions of a demonic nature. He adds that he is relieved that he now has a true demon. Meanwhile, Vermal shatters the chain and rushes towards Obsidian to kill him, but Alto appears in front of him to save him from Vermal's attack. She accidentally strikes Alto with her claws, and he passes away instantly. Lilia begins to cry because Alto has died. Then, Vermal returns to her former form and employs magic to bring Alto back to life. Obsidian freaks out, saying that demons shouldn't be able to raise the dead. After that, he injects the evil potion into his body, transforming into a disgusting demon. He makes death threats against everyone, but is quickly defeated by Vermal. He tries to run away, but Chris shoots him. Elena's opponent vanishes, but makes a threat to come back. Obsidian is then imprisoned for all his crimes. Later, when Alto notices Vermal is depressed, he asks her why she is depressed, when he's still alive and safe. Vermal explains to Alto that she connected their lives by granting her heart in order to resurrect them. Thus, if either of them pass away, the other will as well. Alto breaks down in tears and becomes upset with her for what she has done. She says she had no choice but to do so, because there is no other way to resurrect him. Vermal informs Alto that her monstrous form is her pure state, which is extremely dangerous. She claims that she would leave him because she would be a serious risk to anyone. After hearing this, Alto kisses her on the lips and tells her that he doesn't care if she is a devil or a fairy. After that kiss from Alto, she breaks down into tears as she thinks back to her words that we should only kiss when we truly love. The following day, Alto goes to school alone because Vermal wants to take a short break. When he enters the class, he sees that the girls are sympathetic towards Professor Obsidian because they found it hard to believe that he is the cause of all of the issues. On the other hand, the boys question him about why Vermal isn't in class, to which he responds that she will resume tomorrow. After school is over, Lilia walks to Vermal as she stands by the river. Vermal probes her about whether or not she is scared of her. She claims that being a demon doesn't matter if she isn't violent. She advises Vermal to be open and forthcoming with Alto, because he is her caretaker and master. She informs Vermal that she is his familiar, and that a close bond exists between a master and a familiar. After this, when Vermal returns to Alto's room, she discovers that he has brought some treats for her, because she enjoys eating sweets. She immediately hugs Alto, and they start kissing. After that, the scene switches to some other world, where a guy in a robe, named Lolite, and Heliodor are discussing Obsidian's defeat and how fascinating his research was. The next morning, Alto gives Vermal a school uniform. Vermal walks into the classroom donning a uniform that is far too short for her. The boys are overjoyed that she has rejoined the class again. The student council unexpectedly summons Alto and Vermal into their office. According to Elena, student council members suddenly seize Alto by the blade and demand truth. They are forced to reveal the connection between their lives and the fact that Vermal is a demon. After learning the truth about Vermal, that she's a demon, student council member Jessica wants to rid of Vermal. She is shocked when Elena insists that they have to embrace everyone's familiar. Elena then welcomes Alto to the student council. He gladly accepts the offer. Vermal asserts that they just had added them so they can keep a close eye on them. Alto, however, is still joyful because joining the student council was one of his dreams. Alto brags to his friends about being chosen for the student council. Later, Vermal warns him about her concerns that Elena is not a human, but Alto dismisses her concerns. They've been invited to a council meeting, but when they walked in without knocking, Elena, Chris, and Jessica are changing their clothes. Elena and Chris simply state that it was their fault that the door was not locked, but Jessica disagrees with them. Elena brings in a piece of the creature she previously fought so that everyone can examine it. When they examine it, they found a type of magic that they have never seen before. In the meantime, Lolite and Heliodor are introduced to Goho Kumiya, the creature's master. She becomes upset when Lolite informs her that he killed the head of divine magic, a person he was only supposed to locate. He leaves with Heliodor to search for Alto and Vermal. Alto has a dream in which he sees young Vermal sobbing in a devastated city. Then a woman commands him to choose between saving humanity and bringing about redemption. He wakes up terrified but doesn't tell Vermal about his dreams. The following morning, Vermal kisses him to calm his exam-related anxieties. The exam draws candidates from all over the state. The professor is also a skilled magician. He shows them a crystal ball that contains a flame and tells them to add mana to the flame to intensify it. Everyone anticipates it to be relatively easy. The professor then summons each student one at a time. Several students make unsuccessful attempts to extinguish the flame. Lily understands that the problem is that they are focusing their mana on the crystal rather than the flame, so she switches her attention to the flame and effortlessly increases its size. Marx is then called by the professor, who only succeeds in influencing the flame. However, Cheryl and a male student from a different school succeed in enhancing the flame to a greater extent. The last man, Alto, is summoned by the professor, and he shows up with Vermal. He starts to receive taunts from students from different schools for inviting his mother over rather than his familiar. The professor commands the students to be quiet and inform them that Ortigia Academy has informed him that Alto has a girl as his familiar. Alto immediately understands that the crystal is made of a particular kind of magic and that mana can be splashed into it more conveniently from behind. But Vermal stimulates him to boast, so he pours his mana from the hardest point and makes the flame so big that it smashes the crystal. The female teacher began yelling at him, but the professor gazed up in amazement. He apologizes and fears that his behavior will make him fail the exam, but the professor says he passed. Alto and his friends go to lunch to support one another before the written exam. They are encouraging one another and are confident that all of them will pass. Vermal drags Alto into a corridor where they start smooching wildly, re-supercharging him with his mana. He nearly ran late for the exam because of this, so he stops Vermal and heads straight for the exam room. Lolite enters the restroom and ends up killing the student from a different school who had passed the exam while stealing his voucher. He goes into the test room and takes a seat next to Alto. The scene shifts to Jessica and Elena, who are currently taking a bath at Obsidian Academy while discussing Alto and Vermal. Jessica still finds it difficult to believe that Alto conjured a demon, despite Elena's assertion that it's too obvious they are in love with each other. Here in the exam hall, each student must leave their familiar outside the testing area, so Alto tells Vermal to wait outside. She then makes her way outside to the school's lawn, where she overhears some seniors complaining that this year's exam is too challenging. She believes that her master won't have a problem with it because he is intelligent enough to handle it. The professor distributes the question papers to all students, and the exam begins. Vermal recalls Alto's promise to protect her as she waits for him on the lawn. Alto is surprised to see Lolite napping while the test is in front of him. He makes an effort to stay focused on his paper rather than looking around. A short while later, Lolite wakes up and begins writing incredibly fast to finish the exam in a matter of seconds, making fun of Alto for being slow. Both of them are being yelled at by the professor for disturbing the rest of the class. Lolite informs Alto politely that all he is writing is worthless and that he will soon understand his point. A short while later, a security guard alerts the teacher that he has found a dead student's body in the restroom. This teacher is perplexed because all the students are present in class. Alto understands right away that Lolite is not a student and was the one who killed that boy. Invoking a stone weapon, Lolite unleashes a blast while claiming he isn't a student and had only taken the test for fun. Except for Alto, all of the students start to flee to the examination room for their lives. When the blast is noticed, Vermal and the instructor from the first exam rush towards the testing area. Security personnel force Lilia, Marx, and Cheryl outside the building. After arriving at the scene, Vermal and the professor begin attacking Lolite. All their breaches are repelled, and the golems overwhelms Vermal,
The golem is destroyed when Alto, who is deeply in love with Vermal, changes into his splendid form with golden mana and explodes with power. Alto inquires about Lolite's true desires, to which he graciously replies with, just like every other mean guy, he intends to destroy this world and set up his own, where he will rule as a sovereign ruler with the help of demons. Vermal manages to escape his wizardry at this point, and adopts her horrific form, but Lolite quickly smashes her out. Lolite also tries to kill Alto, but the book Alto used to conjure Vermal was unintentionally left in his backpack, which begins to radiate an amber glow. Lolite pauses to assess the situation. The woman from Alto's dreams then appears in the book. She asserts that she has enclosed Vermal in the book, and is the first person to have complete magical expertise. She tells Alto that the only condition for letting Vermal live with him is that he takes good care of her, and swears never to let her get harmed. And if he fails, she will enclose her in the book again. She continues by saying that she wants to take him to a painful memory of Vermal before he decides whether or not to live with her. Lolite attempts to strike, but she uses magic to stop time. Then she takes Alto to Vermal's past. He awakens 550 years in the past and discovers a young Vermal having a good time with her family. Alto has found himself in Vermal's past with that woman. According to her, Vermal, Miel, Lynn, and Kate were all happily residing in this town at the time. They were all infants and are being taken care of by a nun, despite being fully aware of her demonic nature. The nun didn't care. When the villagers eventually realized she was a devil, they surrounded the church and demanded that Vermal execute her. Vermal's older sister, Miel, urged her to flee, and she almost made it out of town. While fleeing the town, she heard rumors that her family would be murdered if they did not tell them about her. She decided to return to her home to save them, but it was already too late. The villagers had killed her family. She was surrounded by people intending to kill her, but she lost her temper and became a demon for the first time. She then killed everybody and set fire to the village. The woman claims that she was imprisoned in the book as a result of this violent act. Alto is appalled by what he had witnessed. Alto discovers he can communicate with Vermal. He approaches her and makes an effort to comfort her. She transforms into an adult Vermal and cries that her violent acts can't be absolved, but Alto neglects her shrieks and gives her a passionate kiss. He confesses his feelings for her, and they arrive in the present day. Alto and Vermal are standing next to each other, ready to wrap things up. Lolite summons a huge golem and attempts to harm Vermal, but they both combine their skills to destroy the weapon. To attack Lolite, Vermal put her hands on Alto's shoulder and overcharges him. In the meantime, Heliodor appears and chastises Lolite for taking too much time. She then transports Lolite back using a portal. Lolite threatens them, saying that he will return soon with his entire arsenal. Vermal introduces Alto to the woman who enclosed her in the book as Fatima. After repairing the building's framework and giving Alto some advice on how to care for Vermal, she disappears. Later, to grow stronger and defend Vermal, Alto requests that Chris and Jessica teach him how to use a sword. Both express their enduring love for one another in bed at night. The following day, during student council meetings, Elena asserts that they must work together to thwart any assaults attempted in the future. Lilia, Marks, and Cheryl are all overjoyed because the results haven't been announced, and they, along with Alto, have been passed. When Lillian notices that Alto isn't with them, she becomes suspicious that he's in a relationship with Vermal. However, the couple is cuddling up in front of everybody as they publicly declare their love for one another and make a commitment to uphold it.